is the last time this happened, something like this happened, was 1980. And you know, history does not repeat, it rhymes, right? So last time it happened, what was going on in America and in the world? There were hostages in Iran, American hostages being held already for a few months, if not a year. And the country was in dire straits. If you guys see the movie Miracle, you know, about this whole story with, what's his name? I forget the name of the actor who plays Herb Brooks, the coach. He played amazing, by the way. Goldie Hawn's husband, I keep forgetting his name. And they show how, you know, the assistant coach and the medical trainer are sitting in a car, waiting in one of the scenes, waiting to get gas. They're trying to give you historical context. They're trying to show you, you know, how the country was basically in dire straits at the time, and how this whole situation uplifted everybody, really. And then, you know, they were just showing how also the context of, you know, the Soviets going into Afghanistan, and how this was still the Cold War, you have to remember. And how this was like a thing where the Soviets always wanted to show the dominance of the Soviet system over the American system, right? And how this almost like debunked the mystique. And in a way, if you're, you know, a Jew in the Soviet Union at that time, you were probably like, maybe the Soviet system is not so invincible after all, right? If the hockey team, which was like this well-oiled machine, can be defeated by a bunch of college kids, then what's up, right? Then maybe they're not so grand, right? Maybe they have to play against professionals. Maybe we saw, I mean, if you weren't convinced in the 1972 Summit Series, when the Soviets played the Canadians, speaking of which, and lost. I mean, it was a tough series. They lost it was an 8-game series in which the Canadians won. It was one tie, three wins for the Soviets, and then 4 wins for the Canadians. It was an 8-game series. I think it was 4 games in Canada and 4 games in Moscow. So, and I think the Canadians actually won more games in Moscow, by the way. But those guys were professionals. The Canadian guys that they played were all NHL guys, right? The Soviets had never played NHL guys before. It's called the Summit Series. But after that, there was really no other pro series. I think there was, 76 after that. I think the Soviets won that one. I think. I have to check. But they didn't often play NHL guys, right? They always played against other amateurs, or if it was professionals, it was in Europe, right? And this time it was like students. It was kids from Minnesota and Boston. I mean, granted, the best college players, don't get me wrong, that's a high level. These guys are on a high level as it is. But once you look at college guys versus literally NHL level guys, which the Soviets were, you know, Tretiak was given a contract which he could not take, but he was offered a contract by the Canadians, I think, to replace, you know, Ken Dryden, who was retiring. And he couldn't come over. He wasn't allowed. So guys, it's a big deal. And today we have a situation where, again, we have this whole thing with Iran. We have America kind of getting up from it's not from its knees, but again, like from a very weird last few years with a lot of like intrigue and fucked up economy and pardon my language and all this kind of stuff, right? And basically, it's like it's a person throws a statue. Basically, you know, people need some things to lift them up, among other things. Not only that, I happen to think that you know, the what is it called, the this kind of system, not system, rather, the timeline, everything with regards to Mashiach is actually connected to, for some reason, it's connected to hockey. My friend Frank and I spoke about this many times. It's connected to certain what's that, guys? Second. Anyway, it's not to the certain zmanim in with regards to the sport and certain things that happen in the world as certain certain games are played and certain teams win. For example, Frank and I spoke many times about the Rangers, and when the Rangers, the last time they won anything, and the connection to it being the same year, the same week that the Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away. This was June 1994. Within days, I think he passed away a couple of days before Game 7, before the Rangers won the cup. And why do I say that, guys? Why do we come to that connection? Because it's funny. Sam Rosen, the Jewish commentator for the Rangers at that time, he called the captain of the Rangers, Mark Messier, the Messiah. That's like a joke, right? Like they basically got him from the Edmonton Oilers, who, he had won 5 Stanley Cups with Edmonton, along with, what's his name? Wayne Gretzky, and then he won a cup by himself even after Wayne Gretzky left, and then the Rangers purposely brought him because of that, because of the track record of winning. He knew how to win. And then they brought a bunch of other guys from. Just 1 second. Go. Oh my God. And they brought a bunch of other guys from Edmonton, that Edmonton team, and then a few other guys from other teams who played under the same coach. And then, we're able to cobble together a victory. But it's interesting that he called him the Messiah. It's crazy. And then, when they won, folks, I was there in New York when they had the parade for the Rangers. And I gotta tell you guys, it was crazy. The parade was crazy. It was like euphoria, right? It was something like, it was like, I don't know, some kind of like Geula moment for the non-Jewish world, if you want to say it like that. Lahavdil. So, interesting, if you look at 1980, again, they call it miracle, the 1980 team. It was a miracle that they won. And it was something similar to where the goalie, just like in yesterday's game, right, stood on his head. And they got the goals they needed to get. In the case of the Miracle team, they got 4 goals against a very superior team. I can't say the Canadians were super superior, but they are superior to the U.S. team talent-wise, just across the board. On top of that, the guy who manages the U.S. team, not the coach, but the general manager, his name is Bill Guerin. He actually was a player himself. He played for the Devils. He played for other teams. He won. The last time the U.S. beat Canada in any major competition with NHL players was '96, and he was on that team. And it's funny because I was just reading an article, and they called Bill Guerin. The article called Bill Guerin basically a hockey caveman, because he's from an older era, right? He's not going to pick just like the best skill guys for his team. He's going to pick skill guys, but then like a few guys who are like, like the coach called them, he's like, there are some guys in hockey who are milk drinkers and other guys are whiskey drinkers. We had a lot of guys on the team who were whiskey guys, We had some milk guys, but also some whiskey guys. Guys who were like old enough to drink, basically, or look old enough to drink. If you guys notice, the guy who scored the goal, Jack Hughes, he's 24 or 25, but he looks like he's 15 or 16. He's a baby face. It's a kid. So basically he chose this team to Dafka not be as skilled, even though he probably should have chosen other guys who could have brought, more skill, more just natural, talent, you want to say, for scoring goals or whatever. He did not purposely. He wanted America to be hard to play against. With that said, guys, I mean, they were hard to play against. They were, but at the same time, Canada still got their chances, and just like in the '80 team, this Kellebuck guy stood on his head. So it's interesting, guys. Now you're probably thinking, "Sweet, you just went this long-winded thing about hockey. Like, why?" Well, guys, it's important because, again, like, everything comes full circle. This is a full circle, in my opinion. Again, it's not an accident that the American team did win by kind of a miracle, in a miraculous fashion. Obviously combined with skill. It's not an accident that there's this whole situation with Iran, but at the same time, now it's the tikkun. They're about to collapse. They are. No matter how you slice it, they're going to collapse. And also there's a situation with Russia and Ukraine, and they're dealing with that. It's almost like a thing where, why did Putin do what he did? Part of why. He wants the Soviet Union back, right? He wants that thing that was there, right? That Soviet system, that Soviet might, the empire, whatever you want to call it. He wants it. He wants it back. And he thinks it's a good thing. So the first step would probably be to what? If not fully take Ukraine, make it so that Ukraine has a sympathetic rulership, president, just like in Belarus. He can make Ukraine his puppet state, basically, right? He knows he's not gonna take the country of Ukraine and have rule over the Ukrainian people. That's not gonna happen. But he can make it a puppet state, or maybe half of it is puppet state, whatever, right? Just like Belarus, and just like Kazakhstan, and just like a few other places he has, right? For sure, Belarus and Kazakhstan, that's for sure. In a way, more so Belarus. So, there's a lot of similarities happening, guys, in what we're seeing. And I think this time around, we're going to see better results, better things come out of it, because this time, our enemies are dealing, there's a lot of snow here. Our enemies are dealing with professionals. And, America is a little bit harder to play against. And it's not about how skillful you are necessarily. It's about, sometimes it's just about the grit and the determination. And, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to, even if you have a baby face, right? Are you willing to take a hockey stick to the face? And are you willing to bleed for that, the victory? And yes, the Jews are involved in that. Alright, guys. Zat Hashem. We're going to close the circle. Talk to you soon.